alien instructor to the human cadet to their elite hunters. He made friends with them instead. The training ground was a labyrinth of obsidian spires and methane ravines on Kepler, 442b's northern continent. Lieutenant James Okafor had volunteered for the Unified Fleet Program, knowing the risks. What he hadn't anticipated was Instructor Vriex making it personal. "Your species lacks the necessary instinct," Vriex had said that morning, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. The alien's chitinous frame towered over Okafor's 5'10". "Today, we correct this deficit." Okafor had been dropped into the hunting grounds with nothing but a thermal suit and a neural translator. Behind him, he heard the distinctive shriek of pursuit. The elite hunters, 3 of them, fast-moving predators evolved for this terrain. Their bodies adapted to low gravity and high radiation. They moved like liquid violence. His survival training kicked in. Natural shelter, high ground. Okafor ran. He found a chasm and descended, fingers finding impossible holds in the jagged black stone. The hunters descended after him, their movements liquid and precise. But Okafor had studied their physiology. He knew their visual range. He knew they relied on motion sensors. He stopped moving. They passed overhead, their forms rippling through the purple sky. Okafor remained motionless for 4 minutes, an eternity on adrenaline. When they circled back, he was already moving perpendicular to their projected path, toward the thermal vents Vriex had mentioned during briefing. The vents masked his heat signature. Okafor collapsed behind one, breathing hard, listening to the hunters' frustrated clicking and chirping. They communicated through subsonic frequencies. Complex, tactical, intelligent. One of them stopped moving. Okafor's neural translator picked up the signal, an open broadcast, not encrypted. It was addressing the others. The translated phonetics came through as harsh and fractured, but the meaning was clear enough. It stops. It hides. Not prey behavior. Another hunter responded. New species adaptation? No. Intelligent adaptation. Learning our patterns. Okafor realized his breathing had steadied. The hunters hadn't engaged. They were observing. The closest one, massive jaws for optical clusters, skin rippling with chromatic patterns, approached slowly, not the movement pattern of a predator striking, the movement pattern of something curious. "I'm not running," Okafor said to the translator, his voice steady despite the hammering in his chest. The hunter stopped. The optical clusters focused. Another signal came through. It speaks structure sound. "Yes," Okafor said. "I speak. I think. I learn." The 3 hunters converged, but not aggressively. They circled him, examining him. Up close, they were extraordinary. Exoskeletons that shifted through bioluminescent patterns, each color corresponding to different frequencies of communication. Okafor watched the light show of their conversation, trying to parse the meaning. "You're elite hunters," he said, "trained to kill. I understand that." He sat down very deliberately on the warm stone, a gesture of peace, vulnerability, trust. "But you communicate. You reason. You saw I was thinking, not just surviving." One of them, the first one that had noticed, clicked its mandibles. The translation came through as something approximating a laugh. Human shows courage, or stupidity, indistinguishable. "Maybe both," Okafor admitted. They spent the next hours not hunting. Instead, they talked. Okafor learned their names, rough phonetic approximations his translator rendered as Kes, Vrath, and Myrex. They learned about Earth, about why a human had volunteered for alien military training, about fear and choice, and the strange bridge between predator and prey. Kes, the leader, showed Okafor the terrain like a guide instead of a trap, how to move through the radiation zones, which ravines collapsed under human weight, where the thermals ran hottest. Practical knowledge freely given. When Vriex found them, the instructor halted mid-stride. The hunters surrounded Okafor, not threateningly, protectively. Their patterns broadcast unified to Vriex. Human demonstrates warrior philosophy, shows adaptation, courage, and honor. This human is acceptable. Vriex's mandibles clicked in what Okafor now recognized as genuine surprise. The objective was survival. Okafor said carefully, I survived, but I learned something Instructor might not expect. He gestured toward the hunters. Your elite aren't looking for prey. They're looking for equals, for beings willing to meet them with intelligence instead of fear. Kes made a low sound, acknowledgement, perhaps respect. Vriex studied the scene for a long moment. Then the alien's exoskeleton shifted to a pale blue, a color Okafor hadn't seen before. The translator struggled with the meaning, something like satisfaction mixed with admiration. Excellent, Vriex said finally. You have passed, but not the test I designed. He gestured, and the four hunters, Kes, Vrath, Myrex, and Okafor, walked back toward the compound together, their silhouettes cutting against Kepler for 42B's red sunset. Vriex followed behind, and his mandibles clicked softly. The translator rendered it as almost a whisper. Perhaps the greatest predators are those intelligent enough to choose alliance. That night, Okafor realized he'd learned the real lesson. In a military academy across the galaxy, strength wasn't measured in how many enemies you could kill. It was measured in how many you could choose to trust instead.